Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. Well, today we're talking about Warner Brothers Discovery. We talk about Warner Brothers Discovery quite a bit. We've got over 50 videos on the playlist, and we've been following the massive cultural shift and business structural change going on at Warner Brothers Discovery ever since the media merger. A lot of changes have been happening. Some of them are kind of under the radar. Some of them are really obvious. One of the big ones was when the Zaslav team came in, one of the first things they did, it only took a few weeks, was they restructured their diversity, equity, and inclusion offices. They put a new guy at the top, and they restructured how the operations were going to run. So this gentleman was with the company prior to Warner Brothers Discovery merging, and he had a good position. He was in diversity, equity, inclusion department, but they moved him to the top. The person who was at the top prior to him left because obviously things were about to change over there, and they really did. One of the things that they do, it's funny because Zaslav is accused of being really rough and harsh and all that. He's harsh and he's focused on his decisions, but their decisions are very carefully and eloquently organized, and you can see it over time if you look over time. I've been following all the goings on, roughly since the last 2 months or so, and you see the pieces kind of get laid out, and then you see these guys execute over the space of a couple of months if you just watch the story and you watch what's actually going on. So this guy came in. He became the head for the whole world for Warner Brothers Discovery for equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. He also is head of the Creative Diversity Council. And his position there is to execute on the strategy that he agreed with upper management would be the approach to diversity, equity, inclusion in the company. This got everything under control. It wasn't obvious at the time, because all they announced was that they were putting this guy in this position. But as time went on, it would become more obvious. For example, this article followed the announcement September 20th. Warner Brothers Discovery restructures DEI team with an international geographic focus, which is really funny that they call it a focus. It must be what they told Rebecca's son, because focus is the opposite of what they did. Instead of having centralized power, like all in one North American office, they gave the power to Sadiq, which is fine. But he then pushed the power to do things like regionally and locally, because what that was going to do was it was going to make it so that, and this is just from like a business structure and a management structure position. They did not say this in the article. They just announced how wonderful it is. They're doing all these different things in all these different countries now, but they're going to have country focus. But the reality is it diluted the power so that they couldn't go and interfere with the rest of the company that's actually trying to do business and make content and distribute content. So I did a video about this saying woke diversity office eliminated, and Zaslav strikes again. Now, this is, just right after this article came out. And the same day, I was quite excited about this actually, because I'm reading it. I'm like, do people see what's going on here? Because this is like a major shift. And it was a major shift. All of the authority was now dispersed locally to different countries, which is to say, like, nothing is going to happen. Then Warner Bros. Discovery shut down their pipeline programs for writers and directors. And Stage 13, its short-form digital content studio dedicated to amplifying up-and-coming storytellers. All of those stories, there's a couple of titles that we talked about. It's fine, but it's not commercial work. It's just representation stuff that has no consumer demand for it. So this whole thing got shut down. This wasn't what this program was supposed to be in the first place. It was started 40 years ago in 1982 as an up-and-coming talent opportunity. And now, it was, of course, taken over by the diversity, equity, and inclusion movement, such that they had to force only diverse creators through the program, and so on and so on. This program costs $2 million a year to operate. And the biggest problem with the program was it really wasn't creating any good. It wasn't creating anything that would generate revenue. It was like a charity type of program. But the problem was it wasn't even charity outside the company. It was charity that was being subsidized by the TV unit, Warner Brothers TV. Warner Brothers TV was recently restructured. They laid off 26% of the staff. 26%. It's Thanos level firing. They may as well shut down the whole damn thing. But they didn't. They kept enough people that, okay, these are the productive people. They're going to keep them. Two of the, I think it's 82 82 employees that they cut were the diversity, equity, inclusion heads for these pipeline programs. Cut. Okay? Hollywood went berserk. There was my video. The following, was it the following day? Yep, the following day there was an announcement. Oh, no. Warner Bros. Discovery is going to reinstate pipeline programs for writers and directors. So a lot of people thought that the program was, reinstated because they got, quote, in trouble, too much backlash. I even thought, the way it was couched by Rebecca Sun again in this article, she's a little bit biased, but the way it was couched is, okay, they gave up and they said, oh, there was too much of a backlash because the Writers Guild said, the Directors Guild said that, and oh no, they're going to fight the shutdown. And, at some point, even though it may not make good business sense to just waste money on programs, it could damage relationships too much if there's too big of a backlash on something. So it's like not worth the fight for $2 million a year. And that's what I thought. And that's how, normally anyone would take it. And also, Bounding Into Comics, which is a website I go to a lot and use a lot. They have great stories. They're really sharpened in on a lot of things going on. But they also took it to mean that Warner Bros. Discovery was caving to Hollywood pressure and reinstating the writer-director workshops under Diversity, Equity, Inclusion division. Now, this was announced, but that's not what was going on. That's how they read this article at Bounding Into Comics. I read it differently because while she did say she would take over the programs, she made it clear this is the head of North America, not the head of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion for Warner Brothers Discovery. She's just the head of the North America, now reduced power, diluted Diversity, Equity, Inclusion department. She said she was taking over these programs, but basically she also said she doesn't have any budget for it. The $2 million a year that was being funded in the past is no longer being funded. That was cut. It's not coming back. So what is she talking about? She said, oh, we're going to work on finding opportunities and, don't hold me to any dates and schedules for things. And, Rebecca's son, again, because Rebecca is the senior editor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Hollywood Reporter. Always look at who's writing the articles and what their titles are. And you'll get a sense of also where they're coming from. So she told Rebecca, so we don't really have a budget for this or any extra staff for this. We're just throwing this essentially into their human resources department. And Rebecca asked her, when will the programs workshops come back? And the response was, we're going to try and stick close to as possible of what the schedule was. Well, are you going to reinstate the staff from the workshops? No, they will not join my team. I don't have the headcount to have them. What does that mean? Headcount means, budget to hire those people. It's there's no money for that because it was cut. So, what she's basically saying is, look, no, we're going to do the best we can to help people find jobs. But no, there's no overhead allocated to this. In addition to this, she told them, look, we're also not going to pay the salaries like Warner Brothers TV used to do for anyone who goes through their educational pipeline program, whatever new program they come up with that's going to be a shadow of the past program, like practically nothing. And she said, listen, I don't believe in it. Now, this executive, Karen Horn, came from NBC Universal. She had a previous background. She's well known in diversity, equity, inclusion world as an executive who cares about this stuff and makes the best of what she can with what she has to work with. But her answers were perfect. It just shows you how absolutely well managed Zaslav has Warner Bros. Discovery, that he's got Sadiq, he's got Karen Horn here, he's got these people in place that are following the strategy. They're following the plan, they know what their budgets are, and there's not going to be any complaints and any crying that all of a sudden they're going to change around how they're doing business. They've made their decision about how they're doing business. And that's it. So she explains to Rebecca Sun in this article, no, we're not going to pay these additional salaries. And she says she personally doesn't believe in that either. That the salaries, if they're going to be salaries paid, they should be paid by the productions. And you know why it matters who pays what salary is because they're running a business at Warner Brothers TV. You know, they may have bad results, and part of the bad results, or weaker results than they should, are because it's not structured properly. They're not focusing on the right things. And you don't just make money by being in business. You've got to focus on the stuff that makes money. So Susan Horn understands that. Sadiq understands that. Rebecca Sun is starting to understand that. And that's why I did this video, Woke War Win, after seeing this article. Kind of the opposite of my friends at Bounding into Comics. And I saw it as a win because they obviously had the program under control now. This article told you. You know, if you have to read it carefully and notice when they say things about, you know, head count and things like that, like that's super relevant. It's super relevant. Like, no, they're not going to spend the money. So eventually the Rebecca Suns of the world started to catch on and they realized, hey, wait a second. Now we're casting doubt about Warner Brothers' plans for the TV Writers Workshop. Well, you could have, look, the industry people should know this. This isn't that hard to do. They know her and they trust her, which is probably why they didn't speak out before then. But a few days later, they're writing this article, Insiders Cast Doubt on Warner Brothers' Plans for TV Writer Workshop. Well, this is from Business Insider. Yeah, they're not reopening the program. It's gone. So I then did this video, Total Panic, because they started to get upset. They started to realize, like, this really is a problem. The writing program that they were counting on to develop, you know, and look, the people that wind up in these diversity programs and things like that, that get the free salaries and all these opportunities, if you think that's not something where people know someone and then they get this, they have this network and they can, like, this friend, I can get you this salary, I'll get you this opportunity, all subsidized by the investors of Warner Brothers Discovery, you know, that's, I don't like it. It's close to being corrupt. But all those people lost all their influence as well when they cut the financing of the programs. So now you see, and this brings us to today, and we're going to get into this article now. It's a big buildup, but this is what's current. Hollywood Reporter. Warner Bros. Discovery grapples with the costs of cutting pipeline programs. As the conglomerate shuffles writers and directors' workshops onto corporate ledgers, insiders weigh which kind of funding provides the better DEI fix. Let's get into this article. And before we do, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and give me a thumbs up when you like it. It's a huge help. The channel is doing great. It's all because of you guys. I love making these videos. Now, I want you to keep in mind also about Ms. Sun. She is the senior editor for diversity, equity, and inclusion, okay, at Hollywood Reporter. Now, when she writes a headline, Discovery is grappling with these costs, let me ask you a question. You may read this and then, you know, it hits you subconsciously, like, oh, they're grappling with these costs. Well, they seem to be struggling over there at Warner Bros. Discovery. They ain't struggling. They don't have a problem. The only problem they have potentially is that there are industry people that don't like them standing up for themselves and saying, excuse me, no, there's not going to be a shakedown here. We're going to do business. We're going to do it the right way. We're going to give people opportunities based on merit. So you can keep your little shakedown stuff and keep it to yourself. They're not grappling with the pipeline programs at Warner Bros. Discovery. The industry people, the diversity, equity, and inclusion people are grappling with the tough position of Warner Bros. Discovery. Because grappling is struggling. So if I told you I'm looking to build my own castle, but I'm grappling with the cost, would mean obviously I'm struggling with the cost because building a castle is not cheap. So that's kind of where you get where they're coming from. A better headline here would be to say Warner Bros. Discovery refuses to subsidize diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. But that would be attacking them, but it wouldn't really be subconsciously to make you. There are a lot of people that do not question the Hollywood Reporter being biased or not. You always should. You have to. Me too. Like everyone who's telling you something, where are they coming from? And then read what they're saying. As Warner Brothers Discovery's TV group underwent a round of layoffs in October, the news that garnered the most attention seemed to catch the leadership of the newly merged Warner Brothers Discovery off guard. The shuttering of Warner Brothers Discovery's TV's long-running writers and directors workshops. The employees laid off as a result of the closures. Workshop head Rebecca Windsor and administrator Ellie Lockman, who you can guarantee the writer of this article knows very well and personally, represented just 2 of the 125 positions eliminated October 11th across the TV group. But the decision sparked backlash among the vocal community of writers on social media, followed by a swift rejoinder the following day from the DGA, Directors Guild of America. The Guild claimed in a statement that the workshop's cancellation violated the terms of its 2014 collective bargaining agreement, mandating that each studio operate a development program for emerging writers with a focus on improving diversity in TV. Half an hour later, Warner Bros. Discovery announced that its own report of the workshop's death was greatly exaggerated. They were in fact moving under the jurisdiction of the company's DEI unit. Now, so what? What's the big deal? Whether the move was planned, the financial motivations are clear. The TV group had a cost-cutting target to hit. In other words, first of all, yes, they're saving money at the company, but it's not about hitting a target. The first thing is, when you're doing things, you're running a business, whatever it is, you have a lot of normal expenses, things you're used to doing and things like that. Somebody likes the basic business, they buy the business. The first thing they're going to look at is any of this a waste? Why do we have this expense? It's also called zero-line budgeting, where you look at stuff from a zero basis and say, okay, what do we need to add back to be able to operate the business? And obviously, this workshop was not something they needed to operate Warner Brothers TV. It had no reason for being there, so it was cut. Whether the group was planned, the financial motivations are clear. Okay, they had a TV. Sure, they had a number to hit. As a revenue-generating line item, the workshops were easy prey, even though their costs were relatively light compared to the production budget of any given TV show. 2 employee salaries plus the staff writer salaries and episodic directing fees for workshop participants. Can you imagine they're also paying director fees to people based on their skin color? Based on it's diverse, so we're going to pay you a directing fee. It's not good for the director. It's not good for the company. It's not good for the industry. It's not good for the culture. None of this belongs there. If this is merit-based and these people are getting in competitively somehow, it's got some potential. But that's not how this was being operated. Still, that was roughly $2 million that Warner Brothers Discovery CFO Gunnar Wiedenfeld's, you go Gunnar, could slash from WBTV's content-focused ledgers and easily offload as a corporate DEI priority when the need arose. So the whole shift was this. It was, no, we are not going to pay these nonsensical subsidies. We don't need them. It's not doing anything for the business. We're cutting the program completely. And anything that you want to do with, you need to have a diversity program, you can take that up with our DEI department, which already has a fixed budget, which is not going up by 50 cents. That's it. Details of the new workshops are to be determined, but Warner Bros. Discovery's U.S. DEI lead, Karen Horn, told The Hollywood Reporter they will involve at least one significant change. Writers and directors who secure jobs through the workshops would no longer be paid by the programs themselves, but by their individual shows. This follows the model Horn established for the Directors Pipeline program at her previous company, NBC Universal. NBC Universal's DEI brand, NBCU Launch. Okay, so they have NBC Universal has a whole brand dedicated to subsidizing all of this. does cover expenses for the first 2 episodes worth of shadowing for each director participant. So shadowing is basically babysitting and helping them with the work. Sony's TV Writers Program splits costs 50-50 with individual shows. So Warner Bros. Discovery is not going to pay. Opinions are split as to which approach, program paid or show paid, is more effective in accomplishing the expressed goal of creating lasting ascending careers for participants. The argument behind having program writers and directors paid no differently from the rest of the writer's room or other episodic helmers is to help ease the perception that they are token or affirmative action hires. Well, I mean, what you put them into the program that way, then they're going to be perceived that way, obviously. In addition, alumni of the various network and studio pipeline programs have over the years reported having trouble being rehired on shows once they were no longer free. Once they were no longer provided free to a TV show, subsidized by someone else because of skin color or gender or whatever. And the stigma often is exacerbated with programs branded under the DEI umbrella under which the Warner Bros. Discovery workshops now are. Although, obviously, Karen Horn has experience, and they're going to be paying attention to talent a little bit better, and they're going to, when they help place someone, probably say, hey, we know this writer, they're really hardworking, they're young, diverse, whatever, but they probably would be a good fit for your program, and here's why they'd be a good fit for your show, rather than just saying, listen, they're going to come free, I'm sure they'll stay out of the way, they'll sit in the corner, they won't contribute, we're paying for them, just please take them so we can just get them placed. It's not going to be like that anymore. People get an opportunity to actually work and earn their place. And the stigma often is exacerbated. Yes, we know that. On the other hand, advocates of the program's subsidized model argue that in practice, shows simply won't take on workshop participants if they have to pay for them, especially with the ever stingier budgets. Many working writers are reporting a trend of smaller, top-heavy rooms with little vacancy for entry-level writers. Well, I mean, that's the industry, right? If you want to, you can become an accountant. You don't have to be a writer. It's much more fun to be a writer probably than being an accountant. But, if you want security, then you go for a job with security. How many people want to be writers and actors in Hollywood? It's like a lot. And it's very competitive. And it should be that people have to be the best to make it, right? But let me know what you think of that in the comments below. But the bottom line is, the Blacklist founder, Franklin Leonard, sees it, and he's a screenplay person. The Blacklist is a well-known website. If people are debating about who's responsible for paying the diverse writer, then everyone's already failed. Well, yes, it would certainly seem like if people are arguing about who's going to pay for this person, because it's not going to be Warner Bros. Discovery, it's a problem. It's a problem. It means this program is dead. It means these people are going to have to make it based on their own merit. And that's the nature of the business. And that's what they should be focused on anyway. You've got to add value in a creative team, like real value, not just come there free out of some sort of pipeline program. All right, let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. I really appreciate your comments. Be sure to be subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up when you like it. I really do appreciate it. Now, I will see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.